What did he lose after leaving you for his dream girl? Story 1. He left me on a Tuesday like it was just another task to check off. Said he met her at his friend's engagement party. Soul connection, once in a lifetime. The whole cliché package. I didn't cry, not at first. But then came the silence at night. The scent of his hoodie I never returned. The playlists I couldn't listen to anymore. 6 months later, I got a DM from him. His dream girl turned out to be a nightmare in designer heels. She maxed out his credit card on self-care, told him she didn't date guys with cats. He gave away our cat, unforgivable, and cheated on him with his coworker. Me? I started therapy, got promoted twice, and ran my first 10K. I didn't respond to his message, but I did post a photo with our old cat, now back with me, and captioned it. Some things are worth holding on to, others belong in the trash. Story 2. We were together for 3 years, built dreams, shared rent, hosted game nights. Then he met her. Someone from his gym, apparently a better fit. She was into fitness. I was into baking. Guess who he chose? He moved out and left behind nothing but a protein shaker and a hole in the wall from when he punched it during a Halo match. 8 months later, I got a call. He was drunk and crying in a Taco Bell parking lot. She had dumped him for her personal trainer. His dream had become a nightmare of constant calorie counting, expensive supplements, and zero emotional connection. Meanwhile, I opened a home bakery. Business is booming. I'm dating a food blogger who actually eats carbs, and I've never been happier. He lost his partner, his comfort, and his cookies. Literally. Story 3. He thought he'd hit the jackpot. She was younger, had a huge online following, and loved the spotlight. Me? I was the boring one who stayed home and studied. The breakup came via a text message. I think we want different things. Translation. I want someone who looks good in selfies. A year later, his life looked perfect until her followers found out she was cheating. They turned on both of them. She blamed him for ruining her brand, and he lost his job after being caught up in her scammy business ventures. What did he lose? Stability, loyalty, and someone who made him tea when he was sick. What did I gain? A scholarship, peace, and a man who doesn't need to borrow my charger because he always forgets his. Small wins. Story 4. He left because I wasn't adventurous enough. She was a travel vlogger, and he suddenly needed more spontaneity in his life. He packed up and flew to Bali with her 3 weeks later. He lost his job for not giving notice. Then his bank account ran dry. Apparently, traveling the world doesn't pay well when your only skill is talking over GoPro footage. She dumped him in Thailand for a French DJ. He messaged me last Christmas asking if I still had the spare key to his mom's house. I didn't answer. I was in Iceland at the time. Alone, with my own itinerary, and a backpack full of dreams that didn't include him. Turns out I was always adventurous. I just didn't need a passport to prove it. Story 5. We were high school sweethearts. Everyone thought we'd get married. But one day he told me he was in love with someone else. She was more fun, less naggy, and cooler with weed. So he left. 3 years passed. I hadn't seen or heard from him until I ran into his mom at the grocery store. She told me he was back in town, divorced, living in her basement, and really missed the way things used to be. He lost the girl, the house, the car, and, according to his mom, most of his friends. I'm a nurse now, engaged to someone who loves my intensity, my ambition, and my nagging, which he calls accountability. Funny how men only realize what they had when they're forced to live with what they chased. Story 6. We were saving for a house. 2 years of split rent, ramen nights, and side gigs, just to build something together. I was already working 2 jobs, while he freelanced on and off, always promising that the big client was just around the corner. Then came her, a wealthy client's assistant who got his creative spirit. She vacationed in Tulum, drove a Tesla, and called herself a spiritual minimalist. He told me he wasn't in love with me anymore, that our relationship felt heavy. He moved into her penthouse. For a while, he posted filtered brunch photos and tagged locations I couldn't pronounce. But the thing about spiritual minimalists, they don't like freeloaders. When his art stopped paying off and she realized he wasn't her equal, she ghosted him during a couple's retreat in Sedona. He came back to our city and reached out, saying he missed our nights playing Scrabble on the floor, the lasagna I made every birthday, and the realness we had. I didn't reply. I had just signed papers on my own condo. The down payment? From the side hustle I started while he chased vibes. He lost a home, a partner, and someone who believed in his dreams when no one else did. I lost 170 pounds of dead weight. Story 7. He left after 9 years. 9. We'd built a life with routines that felt like rituals. Our Sunday coffee walks, grocery shopping with inside jokes in the produce aisle, the quiet trust of shared silence. Then he met her at a conference. She was bold, loud, exciting. He said she made him feel young again. I guess the comfort we had built together began to feel too quiet for him. After he moved out, I didn't eat solid food for a week. The house felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by us. I found one of his shirts behind the dresser and cried like it had just left me too. Fast forward 2 years. I'm remarried. To someone who sees silence as sacred, not boring. We hike, we build furniture together, and he makes me laugh until my stomach aches. I bumped into my ex last fall. He looked tired. Said she'd left him for someone 10 years younger. He looked like he was still chasing excitement and wondering why it never stayed. He lost a partner who loved him unconditionally, not because of the thrill, but because of the bond we built through life's ordinary magic. And I gained peace, presence, and a love that doesn't need adrenaline to feel alive. Story 8. He said she reminded him of who he used to be. That was his excuse. She brings out a version of me I thought I lost, he explained. While packing his things in the same room we picked paint colors in just weeks before, I stood there watching him shove socks into a duffel bag, wondering if that version he missed was the one who didn't have responsibilities, bills, or emotional accountability. Because that's who she was, a 24-year-old bartender who lived for the next EDM festival. He moved in with her 3 weeks later. I heard stories from mutuals, the fights, the jealousy, the fact she crashed his car. She didn't want to settle down. She wanted to be adored and followed, not partnered. The irony? He tried to come back. 6 months after their crash and burn breakup, he sent me a playlist titled Sorry, as if Spotify could fix what he torched. By then, I had started dating someone who didn't flinch at commitment, who helped me fix my sink and didn't need to chase youth to feel alive. What did he lose? Stability, a future, a woman who loved the man he actually was, not some fantasy version he barely remembered. What did I lose? Illusions. And thank God for that. Story 9. We were long distance for 2 years while he studied abroad. I stayed back, working full-time, sending care packages, FaceTiming at weird hours just to stay connected. I thought we were building something that could survive anything. But then he met her, some local influencer who shared his passion for photography. He said they clicked creatively. He told me over a video call, tears in his eyes, that he didn't mean to fall in love with someone else, but these things happen. I hung up and spent 2 hours scrubbing my kitchen floor. Not because it was dirty, but because I needed something I could control. They lasted 5 months. Turns out, she wasn't interested in a life that didn't revolve around her camera roll. She mocked his English, belittled his plans to go back to grad school, and dumped him in a tweet. By the time he came home, I had already been promoted and was mentoring younger women in tech. I had built a life so full that his return felt like a weak echo of a past I'd long grown out of. He tried to reconnect. I told him no. He didn't just lose me. He lost the woman who kept him anchored while he chased his creative spark. Now, he's a photographer with no muse. I'm a leader who learned to thrive with or without applause. Story 10. He told me he met someone else the night before our wedding. He said he couldn't marry me because he was in love with her, a bridesmaid. I canceled the wedding, refunded what I could, and donated the centerpieces to a local nursing home. The florist cried with me. They ran off together like some twisted rom-com. Moved in fast, posted obnoxious love wins photos. She wore the robe I gifted all my bridesmaids. The betrayal was so sharp it felt like a physical wound. 1 year later, they imploded. She cheated with his boss. He lost his job, most of his friends, and his credibility. No one trusted him. I rebuilt my life. Slow therapy, new hobbies, joined a hiking group. I even got into metalworking, something I never thought I'd enjoy. I met someone through that group, someone who listens more than he speaks and brings me fresh coffee every morning. What did my ex lose? A woman who would have stood by him through anything, if only he hadn't set fire to everything for a woman who wanted attention, not love. What did I lose? A wedding. What did I gain? A life. Story 11. He left me for his coworker. Said they had undeniable chemistry, and he couldn't keep denying it just because he was in a relationship. We'd been together 4 years. I thought we were on the same path. We even had baby names picked out. She was flashy, outspoken, flirted with everyone in the office. I guess she made him feel important. Me? I was building our savings account, researching mortgage options, and packing his lunches. 6 months into their relationship, she cheated on him with a senior manager. A cliche that should have been predictable. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. He lost a future he didn't even realize was valuable until it was too late. Me? I got my peace, started dating someone kind, and used the money I'd saved to take my first solo trip to Europe. I sent him a postcard from Rome. Just 2 words. Thank you. Story 12. He left me for someone he met at his improv group. I should have known when he started staying out late for rehearsals and came home smelling like peppermint and guilt. She was loud, quirky, loved vintage hats and drama, the complete opposite of me. When I confronted him, he said I was too structured and that he needed more unpredictability in his life. Fast forward a year. They moved in together, started a YouTube channel, and were making skits about their wholesome, chaotic love. It lasted until she accused him of stealing her jokes and deleted the entire channel in a fit of rage. He tried calling me after, said he missed how calm everything used to feel. I was at the beach when he called, wrapped in the arms of someone who respected my structure and brought me iced coffee just the way I liked it. He lost someone who gave him stability and space to create. I lost someone who never appreciated either. Story 13. He said she was everything he dreamed of. Blonde, adventurous, and into motorcycles. I was a homebody, an introvert, and a lover of fantasy novels. Apparently, that wasn't exciting enough. She took him on weekend getaways, introduced him to rock climbing, and convinced him to get a full-sleeve tattoo. I watched it all unfold on social media, each post screaming, "Look what you missed!" But real life doesn't filter itself. A year later, he tore his ACL during a mountain stunt. She stayed just long enough to finish her TikTok series about dating a bad boy, and then left. By then, I had started writing, really writing. I published a novella, joined a local author group, and even did a book signing. I never looked better or felt more alive. He lost someone who would have supported his real self, not his highlight reel version. He's now posting vague quotes about self-growth. I'm busy building a life he no longer fits in. Story 14. We ran a small cafe together. It was our dream. My baking, his coffee blends. Business was slow, but we had loyal regulars. Then came her, a restaurant consultant, who wanted to invest. She was sleek, confident, and whispered about franchising. He fell for her vision, and apparently for her. I was told I was holding him back. He bought me out for a laughable amount and rebranded the place into some industrial-style monstrosity. A year later, the cafe was shut down due to poor reviews and debt. She vanished once the money stopped. I used what little money I got from the buyout to start a home-based bakery. Word spread, and now I'm booked 6 weeks out. I'm happy, free, and working with someone who respects my creativity. He lost a dream. Not just a business, but the woman who helped build it brick by brick. Story 15. He left me for a girl from his online gaming clan. Said they connected over raids and late-night Discord chats. He moved 3 states over to be with her after only 2 in-person visits. We had a slow, steady thing. Movie nights, cooking together, talking about rescuing a dog. But I guess slow and steady wasn't enough compared to adrenaline and fantasy quests. She turned out to be wildly possessive, constantly suspicious, and allergic to compromise. Their honeymoon phase lasted exactly until he realized relationships can't be paused like video games. Meanwhile, I did rescue a dog. Found a community, went back to school, and stopped waiting for people to choose me second. He lost someone who showed up for real life, not just the highlights in a headset. I lost the illusion that loyalty is always mutual. And that's a win. Story 16. He left me while I was pregnant. Said he met her during a business trip. She was free-spirited, spontaneous, and didn't drag him down with stress. Apparently, preparing to be a father and helping decorate a nursery was too much pressure. I raised our daughter alone. My parents helped in the early days, and slowly, I built a life where she and I were a unit. Meanwhile, he played house with this so-called dream girl. But reality doesn't care about Instagram captions. She wasn't interested in being a stepmom. He started missing visits, then ghosted completely. 2 years later, I got a letter, full of apologies, regrets, and I didn't know what I had. Too bad my daughter was already calling someone else dad, my husband, the man who stepped in with open arms. What did he lose? Everything. A daughter who calls another man her hero. A partner who loved him through the hard parts. A life he could have been proud of. What did I lose? The illusion that he was a man, and that's no loss at all. Story 17. We worked in the same hospital. I was a nurse, he was a surgical tech. We had that calm kind of relationship, filled with long shifts, shared energy drinks, and quiet support. Then a traveling nurse came in. Model-level pretty, loud, and flirtatious. He told me flat out that he couldn't resist. She made life fun again. They started dating 2 weeks after he moved out of our shared apartment. It lasted 3 months. She got bored of his sarcasm and moved to another state. I found out from a colleague that he cried in the break room. Meanwhile, I'd been promoted, bought a condo, and taken my first solo vacation. I met someone later, a firefighter, who brings flowers to the hospital just because he lost more than just me. He lost his chance to build a real grounded life with someone who would have stood in his corner through every code blue and night shift. He went looking for sparks and lost the flame. Story 18. He left me after we bought a fixer-upper house together. Said he met someone who saw life the same way he did. She was into tiny homes, crystal healing, and living off the grid. So he abandoned the half-renovated place and me with it. I watched him vanish into some Instagram-perfect number-sign van life with this girl who talked about moon energy and only ate fruit until noon. But real life doesn't care about filtered selfies. After 6 months, she left him for a traveling tattoo artist, and he had to crawl back to his parents' house. Meanwhile, I finished the house, fixed the plumbing, planted a garden, even turned the basement into a writing nook. I hosted my first open house last year. It sold above asking. He lost a woman who believed in building something real. I lost the fantasy that some people want to build with you. Turns out I was always enough. I just needed to stop trying to build dreams with someone who only wanted escape. Story 19. He left me after 11 years together. 11 years of building a life, routines, and memories. He said we had grown apart. But later I found out he was having an affair with a woman from his gym, a yoga instructor with a huge social media following. She was bendy, vegan, and wrote vague captions about healing and passion. He followed her around like a puppy. She posted couples poses with him and called him her soulmate. I gagged. Then she got a sponsorship to move to Bali and told him she couldn't bring old attachments with her. He begged her to stay. She didn't. Now he's alone, renting a room and clinging to his memories. I've since learned to ballroom dance, reconnected with old friends, and started dating a man who's emotionally fluent. Imagine that. He lost the life he helped build, thinking he'd find something better. Instead, he found the void. Me? I filled mine with new purpose and better dance shoes. Story 20. He left me for someone he met at a concert. One wild night and he was hooked. She understands me in a way you never could, he said. I guess that meant she liked the same band and didn't mind him getting high 5 nights a week. He moved into her place within a month. They partied constantly. Music festivals, neon lights, no responsibilities. I stayed behind, mourning not just him, but the version of me that believed that chaos equaled passion. It all came crashing down when he got arrested during a music festival drug raid. She bailed on him the second things got real. His ride or die became ghost and block. Last I heard, he was trying to sell his guitar for rent money. And me? I finally started the nonprofit I always talked about. I spend my weekends helping teens find creative outlets. I'm with someone now who shows up sober, listens with intention, and dances with me, even offbeat. He lost the fantasy. I found the real thing. Story 21. He was my high school sweetheart. We went through college together, supported each other's careers, and signed a lease on a little house in the suburbs. I thought we were in the phase right before marriage. I even had a Pinterest board full of ideas. Then came his coworker, a tall, leggy redhead who called herself a wild card. He told me he couldn't help the connection. 1 week later, he moved out. No apologies. Just a cold, this feels right. She took him to wine tastings and hot yoga. He dyed his hair, got a tattoo, and started wearing cologne he once said made him nauseous. It was like watching a stranger wear his face. 7 months later, they broke up. She told him she wasn't looking for anything long-term and said he was too clingy. He tried to come back like nothing happened. Said, I made a mistake. I just wanted to feel alive. But I was already gone. Emotionally, mentally, I didn't even raise my voice. I just said, so did I. He lost someone who built a life with him, who loved him when he was still figuring himself out. I lost the fantasy that loyalty is mutual. Now I'm living in that same house, with someone else's toothbrush beside mine. Story 22. He said she was more ambitious. That was the word he used. We were both teachers, working in underfunded schools and dreaming of creating an education nonprofit together. But she was a lawyer, sleek, polished, full of buzzwords. He said he couldn't see a future with someone who didn't push him, as if waking up at 5 a.m. to teach kids who hadn't eaten was lazy. He left, joined her social circle, wore button-downs, and talked about startups at dinner parties. 2 years later, I saw his name in a Facebook comment thread, arguing with strangers about student loans and how teachers have it easy. I didn't even recognize the man. Meanwhile, I launched that nonprofit with a grant. We've helped over 300 kids access tutoring and mental health services. I even got invited to speak at a national conference. He lost the purpose we once built together. all for a life that looked good in photos but meant nothing to him in the mirror. She left him too. Surprise. Story 23. He said he needed a muse. I was the comfortable choice, he told me, a woman with spreadsheets, meal prep, and stability. She was chaos. She made art, played guitar badly, and believed horoscopes controlled her week. He was a writer. She inspired him to quit his day job and write full-time. He said I didn't understand what it meant to live in the moment. I watched him chase her through every hipster town they could Airbnb in. He posted moody black and white photos of their road trips, talked about creative freedom and manifestation. A year later, he was broke, blocked by her on every platform and working at a used bookstore in a town he hated. He emailed me once. I should have stayed. You were my peace. By then, I had started my own consulting firm, traveled to Japan, and adopted a dog named Hemingway. My life is full, not chaotic, but rich in the ways that actually matter. He lost the muse that kept him grounded. He confused noise for meaning. And now he writes stories about loss, his own. Story 24. He left me for our mutual friend, the one who used to joke about how hot he was. I always felt the tension but trusted him. Then, one night, he came home and said, I have to follow my heart. I packed his things into a trash bag and set them by the door. No drama. Just a dull, hollow ache. They moved in together. Posted memes and inside jokes. The betrayal hurt more than the breakup, because she'd once helped me pick out his birthday gift. It didn't last. She got jealous of every woman who so much as blinked near him. He complained about her constantly to mutual friends who told me everything. I never took him back. Instead, I started therapy, started journaling, and started a new relationship with someone whose friends treat me like gold. He lost someone loyal enough to overlook red flags and trusting enough to believe love meant something. She lost a friend. I lost illusions. Fair trade. Story 25. He left me after we lost our son. Said he couldn't look at me without feeling pain, as if grief wasn't something we were meant to share. 2 months after the funeral, I found out he was seeing someone from his grief support group. She was spiritual, talked about energy and reincarnation. I guess he wanted hope while I still needed time. They held hands at his cousin's wedding. My stomach turned. It didn't last. She told him he was too emotionally closed off. He started drinking more, missed work, ended up back in his childhood bedroom. Me? I started painting again. It saved me. I joined a support group, went back to school for art therapy, and started working with parents who've experienced loss. He lost someone who would have sat in the pain with him, who didn't need to escape to heal. I lost my child, the worst loss of all. But I didn't lose myself. He did. And that's something no dream girl could ever fix. Story 26. He was my husband. We had been married for 8 years, together for 11. We weren't perfect, but we had rhythm. He worked in IT, I managed a bookstore. Then came a client from one of his contracts, a graphic designer. Young, edgy, and fascinated by his intellectual side. He told me one night after dinner, casually sipping wine, I think I've fallen in love with someone else, just like that. I remember the clink of the fork hitting the plate. They moved in together within weeks. She painted murals on their apartment walls and hosted poetry nights. For a while, his Facebook turned into a parade of artistic rebellion. But real life doesn't stay in sepia filters. She didn't want to split bills. She didn't clean. She couldn't be contained by marriage. By year's end, she left for Europe with a sculptor she met at a gallery. He reached out 6 months later, asking if I still had our old recipe binder. I did. But I also had a new life. I had opened my own store and was seeing someone quiet, funny, and deeply kind. What did he lose? A life of real connection, built brick by brick. What did I lose? The man I married. But maybe he was already gone. Story 27. He left me after we bought a puppy together. Said he wasn't ready to settle down and had met someone who made him feel wild again. She was a bartender at the lounge we used to go to. He moved in with her 2 weeks later, leaving me with the vet bills and a confused golden retriever named Max. She was exciting, sure, but she wasn't exactly into morning walks or puppy training. I watched from afar as their posts went from hot and heavy to passive-aggressive memes. Max became my whole world. That dog got me out of bed on days I didn't think I could move. A year later, I heard from him. Said he missed the little things, the Sunday pancakes, our shared Spotify, Maximum. I didn't reply. I was too busy hiking with Max and my new partner, a vet tech who actually loves animals more than people. He lost a woman and a dog who would have stuck by him forever. Max is thriving, and so am I. Story 28. He left after we signed a lease on our dream apartment. Said she understood his artistic soul better than I did. She was a theater major, dramatic in every sense, and I was in finance, too rigid for his taste. She convinced him to start a band. He traded his suits for thrift store jackets and stopped showing up to his day job. They lived off her parents' money and microwave ramen. It lasted until the novelty wore off and she decided she wanted to find herself in Costa Rica. Left him with rent he couldn't afford and a guitar he couldn't sell. Meanwhile, I had kept my end of the lease and found a new roommate who introduced me to yoga, balance, and a man who plays cello at the symphony. He lost a steady, loving woman who supported his passion even when it didn't pay. I lost someone who mistook chaos for freedom, and I gained a life in tune with mine. Story 29. He left after I survived breast cancer. Said he couldn't handle watching me go through it again, then added, "Besides, I've met someone who brings back my light." I was still bald when he packed his things. She was a fitness model who believed in manifesting youth. At first, I thought maybe I was the problem. Too scarred, too tired, too changed. But then I realized, anyone who flees during your lowest doesn't deserve a seat at your comeback. She dumped him 6 months later when he failed to keep up with her clean-eating lifestyle and 5 a.m. gym schedule. I grew my hair back, ran a 5K for cancer survivors, spoke at a charity gala, met someone who said my scars made me more beautiful, not less. He lost the strongest version of me, and I lost the man who only loved me when I was whole. Now I love all my pieces, and so does he. Story 30. He was my business partner, best friend, and boyfriend. We co-founded a small creative agency, spent late nights building something from nothing. Then we landed a big contract with a trendy fashion brand, and he fell for their creative director. He told me during a pitch meeting break, just whispered, "I think I'm falling for her." I felt my hands go numb. We had a shared bank account, a signed lease, staff that looked up to us. She was glamorous and bold. She took him to networking events, introduced him to champagne brunches and digital fame. But she wasn't interested in the actual work. When he couldn't carry the weight of our agency alone, she bailed. The brand dropped us. He lost the company and his reputation. I started again. New brand, solo. Smaller but cleaner. One of our old clients followed me. Then 2 more. Now I've got a team that respects me and a relationship that doesn't compete with my ambition. He lost the woman who helped him dream, plan, and execute. Who did the spreadsheets while he chased the spark? I didn't just survive, I thrived. Story 31. He left after we opened a joint bank account. Said it was too much commitment, and that he'd reconnected with an ex who never tried to change him. We'd been working toward financial goals, a down payment, maybe starting a small home renovation biz together. I'm practical, always was, but I also believed in building a future. She was impulsive. He said that made her exciting. I warned him that exciting can come with overdraft fees. He didn't listen. She drained their account on a week-long cruise she didn't tell him she booked. He tried to dispute the charges. She blocked him and posted selfies with a DJ named Marco. He called me weeks later to ask if I had any budgeting spreadsheets I could send him. I said, I deleted them, just like I deleted your number. He lost a woman who made the hard parts easier. I lost a financial liability with nice cheekbones. We're both better off. Story 32. He left me for a woman from his volunteer group. I was happy he'd started volunteering until he used it to rewrite his life without me in it. She ran an animal rescue, posted selfies with puppies, and quoted Brené Brown in every caption. He said I wasn't emotionally evolved enough, that I wasn't growing with him. We had been together through 3 job losses, his anxiety diagnosis, and 2 funerals. But apparently, my growth didn't come with enough hashtags. He moved in with her and posted about their spiritual alignment. That lasted until she told him he wasn't emotionally available enough and that he was blocking her path to healing. I now run my own pet adoption website and work with shelters directly. Real work, no performance. I've dated since, but mostly I'm learning to love my own quiet company. He lost the person who helped him rebuild. I lost the person who forgot who did the heavy lifting. Karma didn't need to be loud. It just needed to show him a mirror. Story 33. He left me for a neighbor. Yes, the girl next door. Literally. She moved in during the pandemic and brought over banana bread. Within 2 months, he was just helping her with furniture, then walking her dog, and then eventually moving in. He said it just happened. That's how cowards justify cheating. They lasted all of 4 months. She realized he was messy, played video games all night and couldn't commit to anything but fantasy football. I heard through mutuals she kicked him out after he forgot to pick up her dog for a vet appointment. Meanwhile, I'd started therapy, joined a running club, and eventually fell for someone who doesn't need banana bread to stay loyal. He lost a partner who stayed through job changes, panic attacks, and late rent. I lost a man who couldn't carry groceries without making it about himself. That's not love. That's weight. Story 34. He left me for his personal trainer. It started with compliments on his discipline. Then protein shakes became flirty texts. And suddenly, I wasn't supportive enough because I still ate bread. I laughed the night he packed his bags. Not because I was okay, but because I realized he thought this woman, who charged $80 an hour, was his soulmate. She made him quit carbs, do ice baths, and log every meal. He lost weight, sure, but he also lost his spark. Eventually, she told him she wasn't attracted to his energy anymore. Translation: he was boring without pasta. I joined a salsa class, stopped counting calories, and started dating someone who brings me pastries every Saturday morning. He lost a woman who accepted his body through every stage and loved his laugh lines. I lost 190 pounds, and only 40 of it was fat. Story 35. He left after our road trip across the country. Said somewhere between Arizona and Colorado, he realized I wasn't the one. I'd planned that trip for months, booked stays, made playlists, packed snacks he liked, and apparently all it did was give him time to mentally draft his exit plan. When we got home, he moved out within a week. Told me he was dating someone he'd met at a hiking trail stop in Utah. She had a van and made jewelry from rocks. They lasted a summer, until she drove off without telling him. Said she didn't believe in ownership, including relationships. I went on another road trip the next year, solo. Same route. But this time I drove with peace, played my own music, and didn't stop to impress anyone. He lost a co-pilot who would have driven through anything for him. I lost a passenger pretending to be a driver. Good riddance. Story 36. He left after I got the job offer of a lifetime, creative director at a design firm in Chicago. We were living in a small town, and I thought we'd both be excited to start fresh. Instead, he told me he couldn't follow me because he'd reconnected with a girl he dated in college who had just moved back. She was simple, he said, didn't want to chase titles. He stayed behind, married her 6 months later. Their wedding was rustic, mason jars and hay bales. I saw the photos online. They looked like a Pinterest ad. I didn't cry. I moved. I thrived. I led 3 campaigns that won awards, got invited to Paris Fashion Week, and found a new love, one who respects ambition and doesn't flinch at success. 2 years later, he messaged me. Said he misses how I made him feel like more. I said, funny. I made myself more without you. He lost someone who dreamed big and took him with her. I lost someone who never planned to leave the ground. Story 37. He left me during our engagement, literally 3 weeks before the wedding. Said he ran into his high school crush at his bachelor party and realized he never really got over her. He called it off with a voicemail. Said it wasn't fair to keep pretending. I canceled the venue, donated the flowers, and used the honeymoon trip as a solo reset. I hiked, I journaled, I cried into overpriced wine, and then I rebuilt. Turns out she dumped him 2 months after he proposed to her. Said she wasn't ready to be a stepmom to his life. He tried to reach out a year later. I was already remarried. Different man. Better soul. Someone who didn't mistake nostalgia for love. He lost the real thing chasing a ghost. I lost a wedding, oh but not a husband. Story 38. He left me because I lost my hearing. Sudden sensorineural hearing loss, overnight. I was terrified, grieving the silence, learning how to adapt. I thought he'd be my anchor. Instead, he said it was too much, and that he didn't want a life filled with limitations. A month later, he was dating a woman from his gym who kept life loud. It broke me. Until it didn't. I learned ASL, found community, eventually taught art classes for deaf teens, and fell in love with a teacher from the center, someone who saw me as whole, not broken. He emailed once to say he saw me on a local news segment and was proud of me. I deleted it. He lost a woman who fought for life even when it went silent. I lost a man who couldn't stand still when things got hard. Now, my world isn't quiet. It's just full of better sound. Story 39. He left after a camping trip with his new coworkers. Came back changed, wearing beaded necklaces and quoting Alan Watts. Said he met a woman who opened his third eye and helped him realize we were spiritually incompatible. She sold crystals on Etsy and claimed to astral project while meditating. He was all in. Quit his job. Started charging people $40 for tarot readings. They moved into a yurt. I'm not kidding. A literal yurt in her friend's backyard. 3 months later, he was living in his sister's guest room after she ghosted him for a guy who taught breathwork in Bali. Meanwhile, I started a podcast about wellness scams and built a steady following. I exposed fake gurus, including a segment called The Yurt Years. He lost someone grounded in both love and logic. I lost someone who thought incense could replace intimacy. Story 40. He left after I was diagnosed with endometriosis. We'd been trying for a baby, and when we learned that IVF might be our only chance, he panicked. Said he always dreamed of a big family and couldn't sign up for all that hardship. A month later, he was dating a woman from his cousin's church group. She had 4 siblings and a Pinterest board for nursery designs. I cried for weeks, not just from the pain, physical or emotional, but from the betrayal of a man who promised me forever, but only meant until it gets difficult. She left him when he confessed he wasn't ready to commit financially to kids. Ironic. I stopped chasing motherhood and started chasing my own healing. I got certified in yoga therapy, opened a wellness studio for women with chronic conditions, and met a man who says my strength makes him feel safe. He lost a woman who would have made a beautiful mother to any child in any way. I lost the man who only wanted easy love and found deeper joy where it hurt first. Story 41. He left after we adopted a child, a little boy who had already experienced more loss than most adults. I thought we were on the same page, ready for this journey, but he crumbled under the weight, said he missed freedom, that he'd met someone, a woman who was child-free by choice, with no desire for responsibilities. He packed his bags and left us. Our son asked if he'd done something wrong. That nearly broke me. But I promised him people who love you don't leave when things get hard. And then I made it true. I raised him. Alone at first. Then with help from friends, from a therapist, and later from someone new. Someone who taught my son to ride a bike, not run from one. He lost a family, not just me. A boy who would have called him dad. A life built on sacrifice and joy. She left him eventually, said he lacked depth. And she was right. Story 42. He left me after I got sober. Said I wasn't fun anymore. That he missed the wild nights and spontaneous road trips. Never mind that those nights ended in blackouts and regret. I told him I couldn't keep living like that. I chose rehab. He chose her. A girl from the bar who still drank tequila straight from the bottle and called herself a free bird. While I was counting days of sobriety, he was counting shots. While I rebuilt trust with my family, he was wrecking rental cars. She eventually moved on to someone younger and wilder. Last I heard, he's in debt and jobless, still calling his lifestyle freedom. I'm 2 years sober. I sponsor women starting recovery and found someone who brings sparkling cider to our anniversary dinners. He lost the healthiest version of me. I lost a drinking buddy who never planned to get better. And that's the best trade I ever made. Story 43. He left me after I had weight loss surgery. Said I was becoming too obsessed with appearances and not the woman he fell in love with. Funny, considering he used to beg me to get in shape. Then when I did and started gaining confidence, dressing differently, going out, smiling more, he became distant, paranoid, controlling. One day, he told me he met someone more natural. She was softer spoken, not intimidating. I told him he could go be average with her. A year later, I'd lost 90 pounds, ran a half marathon, and got certified as a personal trainer. My client base exploded, especially with women trying to take control of their own lives. He reached out to catch up, said I looked amazing. I said, thanks, but I've already dropped the weight that mattered most. He lost a woman becoming her best self. I lost a man threatened by growth. No regrets. Story 44. He left after our bakery finally turned a profit. We co-owned it, or so I thought. But once the press started rolling in and a food blogger featured us, he said he felt creatively suffocated. Turns out he'd been seeing a food stylist behind my back. Someone who said we should brand ourselves instead of wasting time on grandma's recipes. He emptied our joint account and opened a bakery with her 2 blocks away. They sold overpriced croissants and used edible glitter on everything. It flopped in 6 months. People missed the warmth, the realness. The stories I told with every recipe card I left at the counter. I kept the original shop, hired better people, added a community table, grew slower but stronger. He lost a business, a partner, and the magic that couldn't be faked with frosting. I lost a fraud in a chef's hat. Story 45. He left me while we were renovating our first home. We were sanding cabinets when he said he was no longer sure. I thought he meant about the paint color. He meant about us. Said he'd fallen for our real estate agent. She just gets me. Yeah. Maybe because she only saw the version of him that holds a clipboard and nods confidently at floor plans. He moved into a condo with her 3 weeks later. The same condo we'd both rejected for being soulless. 6 months later, she left him for a married client. Meanwhile, I finished the renovation alone. Tile by tile, tear by tear. I sold the house for $60,000 profit and used it to open a tiny photography studio. Something I always wanted. He lost a woman who was willing to build from scratch. I lost a man who quit before the paint dried. I never looked back. He still drives past the house that could have been ours. Story 46. He left me while I was in law school, said I was too focused on my future, and that it made him feel left behind. She was a barista at his local cafe, wrote poetry on cup sleeves and called herself a professional empath. He told me she made him feel seen. I told him to go be seen, far away from me. I studied harder, graduated top of my class, passed the bar on my first try. I didn't even notice when their relationship quietly vanished from social media. Turns out, she dumped him after he forgot her birthday and said, astrology isn't a real science in front of her friends. He reached out the day I made partner, said he was proud of me. I replied with a photo of my new office. And 0 words. He lost someone who would have built a life with him brick by brick. I lost someone who feared being with a woman who didn't need saving. And honestly, I never felt more powerful. Story 47. He left when I got diagnosed with lupus, said he wasn't cut out for chronic illness. I had flare-ups, hospital visits, nights where I couldn't move. He started staying out late. Then I found out about her, his coworker, a marathon runner. He told me I was too tired all the time, that I made him feel heavy. She dumped him after he tore a ligament trying to impress her at a Tough Mudder. I found my rhythm. My body's different now, but strong in its own way. I work remotely, paint in the evenings, and live with someone who brings me soup during flares, and never calls me a burden. He lost a woman who needed compassion and would have returned it tenfold. I lost someone who thought love should only exist in health. That's not love. That's convenience. Story 48. He left after I helped him get sober. I stuck through detox, drove him to meetings, flushed his hidden stash. I watched him shake, cry, rage, and when he was finally clean, he said I reminded him too much of the lowest point in his life. He met someone at his new job. She didn't know the old him. It's just easier, he told me. I felt like someone had ripped the foundation out from under me, but I didn't spiral. I started therapy, took up running, led a local recovery group for partners of addicts. A year later, he relapsed. She left. He asked if I'd be there again. I said, no, but I hope you find someone who will. He lost the one person who walked with him through hell. I lost the illusion that loyalty guarantees love. And that clarity? That's freedom. Story 49. He left me after I miscarried. We'd been trying for a year. When we lost the baby, I crumbled. So did he, but in a different way. He pulled away, stayed late at work. Then I found messages between him and his coworker. Flirty. Cruel. He said I was emotionally draining, that she was refreshing. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just packed his things and left his key on the table. They moved in together 2 months later. I heard through a mutual friend she left him after a fight at IKEA. I spent the next year rebuilding. I started writing again, joined a grief group, met a widower who understood loss like a second language. Now we laugh again. We hope again. And we try again without fear. He lost a partner who mourned out loud so he wouldn't have to. I lost a man who ran from pain. I found one who stays. Story 50. He left after my dad died. I'd flown home for the funeral and asked him to come. He said he didn't do well with emotions and stayed behind to go on a hiking trip with friends. While I was writing a eulogy, he was posting mountaintop selfies with her. Someone he just met, but clicked with immediately. When I returned, he admitted they'd kissed. Said it just happened, like gravity, I guess. I walked away without a word. I buried my grief in writing. Published a memoir about losing my dad and finding myself. It became a modest success, and I started getting emails from people who said my words helped them heal. He left a woman grieving, thinking she'd stay stuck. I didn't. I rose. Story 51. He left me while we were building a life abroad. We'd moved to Spain for my graduate program. He was working remotely, learning the language, enjoying tapas and sunsets, until he met her. She was a backpacker from New Zealand, carefree, dreadlocks, vegan. Suddenly, I was too serious, too scheduled, and missing the point of life. They took off together. She convinced him to hitchhike through Portugal. He didn't even say goodbye properly, just left a note on the kitchen counter. A month later, I saw a post about her going to India, alone. Apparently, he was too clingy and didn't vibe with her path. I stayed in Spain, finished my degree, made friends. Fell in love with an Italian barista who knew the value of loyalty. He lost a woman building something real with him. I lost a man who confused chaos with freedom. Now I travel too, just with purpose, not in pieces. Story 52. He left me for his gaming stream mod. Yep. She donated $500 during a charity stream and became a fixture in his chat. At first I thought she was just generous. Then I saw the DMS. She lived 3 states away. Within weeks he was planning to visit her. Told me I didn't support his career. Career? He was 28 and playing Fortnite 6 hours a day. She promised to build his brand, but when he moved in, she cut the internet during a fight and threw his headset out a window. I moved on. Quietly. Took coding classes. Started freelance design. Launched my own indie game and sold it to a small studio. He lost a real partner. One who supported his dream when it was still a hobby. Now, he's banned from Twitch for breaking TOS, and I'm thriving in the industry he only talked about. Plot twist. I'm his competition now. Story 53. He left after our IVF failed. Again. Said the stress was killing him, and that he couldn't handle the pressure of being needed. Then he told me about her. Someone from his gym, no kids, no plans, no emotional baggage. He left while I was still injecting hormones and crying at diaper commercials. She was younger, carefree, and thought our fertility journey was too intense. They lasted 8 months. She wanted open relationships and weekend raves. He wanted his shirts ironed and lasagna on Sundays. Meanwhile, I joined a support group, adopted a dog. Later, I fostered a child, then adopted her. Her name is Mia, and she's 8, and the light of my life. He lost a family that was waiting to be formed. I lost a man who couldn't stand the storm, and became one instead.